Hello everyone, Fanta here, and you're watching Fantavision. Today is another episode of Foodservice Fables. And just to get this out of the way real quick, I am not drinking a beer today. I'm just drinking some water because I'm working on my brand new computer. I've had this one now for a very long time, and it was taking an hour and a half to render a 20-minute video. So with this new computer, I should be able to have more streams, more videos, and more stuff like that every week. So this channel is just going to keep growing, and there's just going to be more and more content. And because I want to put out more and more content, I had to upgrade. So sorry this was late. It was supposed to come out yesterday, but I was working on my computer all day and figuring stuff out. And anyway, so Foodservice Fables, we're back to me working at the Chinese restaurant. Back to the Chinese restaurant. Now, the thing is that the food was actually really good at the place. Like, the food, I gotta admit, was really good with the original owners. It was good. I mean, it changed a bit when it changed hands, but that's how usually it goes down. For some reason, I don't know how that works. Maybe the owner steals recipes or something. I don't get it. I'm not in the restaurant industry. I've just worked as a busboy in it. So the thing I really wanted to talk about today, and the reason I brought up that the food is good, is because a lot of you guys picked up on how weird and how gross some of the things were that I talked about, like the silverware still having some food stuck to it, and I had to scrub that off, or the fact that I don't think people have picked up on this, we use like this bucket for ice, and whenever we got ice, sometimes there'd be rice in it. I didn't mean to rhyme, but there was sometimes like food in the bucket, and I had to wash it out with water, but I always wondered to myself, now, I know it's just food, but what else has been in that bucket? What else could be contaminating all this ice? And I'm assuming that the people in the back are washing out the bucket like they're supposed to, but it's just a bucket, you know? I mean, it's just sitting there in the back, which is really gross, by the way. The floor was always covered in just this disgusting grime, and they had like those perforated floors, and there was just stuff stuck inside of it, and it was really nasty. I mean, sometimes they'd clean it out and it'd be nice and clean for like a week, but they just let it go like a teenager's room. So that was kind of gross. I mean, the bucket, I would have to manually go back and rewash it, and the fact that I had to do that, I mean, a lot of people before me, before I worked there, and the other busboy did not do that with the bucket. So although I may have been cleaning it, if it wasn't me on the shift, you're gonna get some gross ass ice with your Chinese restaurant experience in your water. So I had to do that. Pretty gross. And same with the plates. Sometimes the plates would have food stuck to it as well. You think they just kind of run it through again, but they just told us to use a wet cloth or something like that. And the amount of times people are touching your plates before they get to your table, I mean, it's not like they go straight from the kitchen to your table. They have to be, it's inspected, which people are not touching your plates, and you hope people are washing your hands. And I used hand sanitizer and whatever I could when I was handling plates, but I wasn't the only one handling plates. So, kind of gross. Another thing that I saw only happen I think it was maybe once or twice, but it really worried me because I wonder how many other times this has happened. And that's somebody dropped a piece of chicken on the floor. You already know where this is going. And they rinsed it off a little bit in the tap water, and then they cooked with it. Which really bothered me because I liked the chicken there. I liked the chicken there a lot. And let's just say I switched to beef for a while because I never saw anything like that happen with the beef. I'm sure it could happen. Just because they've done it with only chicken doesn't mean they're not only doing it with the beef. Mind you, this is a place that passed every health code thing ever. But then again, there's also restaurants where I've seen people just handle everything with their hands, and they also get a passing grade. I don't know what it takes to get a passing grade, but after seeing the restaurant I worked at and the backs of restaurants that I'm ordering from, it's like, how do you have an A? I feel like you're grading on like a curve or something, because it's ridiculous. A lot of these restaurants do not deserve A's, and I think it's because the health inspector comes And he doesn't come for like, like a surprise. He comes because he alerted you he was coming, and you're like, oh, clean everything, make everything spotless. And then the health inspector comes, and everything's spotless, duh, because you just knew he was coming. So I don't know if that's part of the problem or if that's completely wrong, but that's what I've heard, and that's what it was like when I was working there. We knew the health inspector was coming, so we would really step up our cleaning game, and I had to help clean out back as well in the kitchen area. And I also mentioned, how there was mostly Chinese people at the front end, and I didn't talk about the back yet. I didn't talk about the back. Now, let's talk about the back end of the restaurant. Now, once again, this isn't racism. I'm just telling you who was in the back of the kitchen. And it was like an Asian guy and sometimes another Asian guy, but it was usually an Asian guy and a bunch of Mexicans. Which is funny because I've seen that at Panda Express as well. But you think like an authentic Chinese restaurant, the chef would be Chinese. And sure, the head chef was, but I don't know. This is new. This is common now. I mean, I see a lot of white people making Chinese food. It doesn't matter your race anymore. It's all the same recipes. But this was hailed as an authentic Chinese restaurant, and the owners had come from China. And you could say, well, that's because the recipes they brought from China. But I mean, a lot of these were pretty Americanized dishes, and there was nothing weird, and I don't know. It was just interesting and kind of funny to me that you see that. I mean, I've been to a Mexican restaurant, and a lot of the chefs were white, and I was like, I'm paying for Mexican food here. Like, I know it doesn't matter, but a lot of people grow up with that type of food. So that's the type of food that they're really good at cooking. So that's why these restaurants are hailed as, oh, when I go to a Mexican restaurant, I'm hoping it's a Mexican person making my food because that's what they grew up with. They have the palate for it. That's what they've done their entire life. Just like a Chinese restaurant, you were in China. You have been cooking this type of food for this long. You grew up with this type of food in your own, country of origin. And now you've got somebody who's never, who didn't grow up in China. He didn't have that same background. He doesn't have the same palate as you. And a lot of cooking, at least when I was in culinary arts, has you tasting a lot of different things as you're cooking it. And of course, taste is subjective. It's also a little bit objective. I mean, a lot of people can tell, oh, this is disgusting and this is delicious. But there's a lot of gray area in that. Somebody might find that thing that somebody found disgusting, delicious, and, the opposite is also true. So I don't know. It's always interesting to think about that kind of thing when you're talking about restaurants, because people always throw in that racism issue, and it's not being racist. It's just, this is the type of food I wanted, and I want the people making it to have that palate and have that history with it. Because that's why we have a this is completely off topic of me working in the food service, but it does have to do with the food service. We have a gelato place here called Frost, and these people came straight from Italy, and they brought their recipes with them. They themselves were Italian, and gelato comes from Italy. So because of that, they made an insanely good gelato. It's incredible. And because of that authentic taste, they got to open a bunch of other locations. But the problem is that main chef that was making that gelato isn't there anymore. Now, the gelato is still good, but it's not as good as when that guy was there. You can tell the difference. And I know it's a simple recipe, but like I said, a lot of it has to do with taste. And I feel like it suffered a little bit once that guy left. And now this isn't just because, oh, I know he left, so now I'm going to taste the difference. It was, this tastes off. What is going on? The vanilla doesn't have that same rich taste it did at the beginning. And we even asked him, like, what's wrong with this? Is the chef out sick? What's going on? And they were like, oh, well, now there's a bunch of other locations. He's not working at those locations any longer. So they just have some random guy that they've trained to do it. Now, I'm sure that guy's great at making gelato, and he is. It's still good, but it's not the same as when they had their authentic Italian chef making the authentic Italian gelato. And that was one of the problems with the Chinese restaurant when it changed hands, because those people that came from China were no longer there. The new owner, I don't know, maybe he had a different taste. Maybe he felt some of the dishes weren't how he wanted them, and that's why it's not as good as it used to be. I mean, you see this all over the place with restaurants. Whenever new management, they even advertise it sometimes. Like if it's a restaurant that wasn't very good, they advertise new management. And for the longest time, I didn't get why that mattered. I didn't get it. I was like, okay, you got a new manager, who cares, right? Same chef, same everything. New management means a ton. I mean, that manager could go through every single dish, taste it, and go, you know what, that's wrong. I don't like that. Or a new manager could completely change who's cooking. So because of that, management has to do with a lot, and it also has to do with the chef a lot. So that was my long thing about where was I even going with that? I was just talking about the different chefs in the back and why it was kind of weird that there were Mexicans cooking. And that was the only reason why it bothered me. I mean, if it was a white guy, it would have bothered me. It doesn't matter that they're Mexican. I got to put that out there because everyone's so sensitive nowadays. But yeah, it was interesting, you know? I mean, another thing about hygiene, since we just went on that huge tangent about chefs and what it means to have an authentic whatever cuisine you're having there. When we wash the tables, you use the same rag on every table. And I know it's covered in cleaners that are probably going to give me hand cancer, but that's just such a gross concept to me. Like you think when you put your silverware in that table, it's completely clean. But, you know, at night, we go through it thoroughly. We spray it down, we buff it out, we make it look shiny, make it look perfect. But throughout the day, as we're cleaning tables, we're not doing that because we're not gonna spray that stuff into other people's food. We don't want to get in people's way. We don't want to take forever. So instead, we just kind of wipe it down with a rag that we've been wiping down every single table that day with. Now, if someone in the comments could tell me that, hey, it's fine, you know, it's not a big deal, there's enough chemicals and cleaning stuff that you don't have to worry, that'll ease my mind. I'm not just trying to gross you guys out. I'm honestly like also looking to you guys, is this normal? Because I've only worked here. So is this normal to have that same rag used for every single table for the entire day? And I just want to say, no, I usually didn't clean that rag because I had nowhere to do it. And if I did have a dirty rag, I'd throw it in the back and I'd expect them to clean it and give us new ones, but they were always so busy in the back, I didn't have that much time to do that. And if I'm cleaning tables constantly, I can't just keep going back and washing that rag. Now, I mean, your food is on a plate, so it's not like your food is on the table. But seeing people drop something on the table and then pick it up and eat it, I just kind of went, oh. And then I've also caught myself doing that in restaurants. And I've also caught myself being a lot more conscious of what's on the table and what's not. Like I don't let silverware usually touch the table. I have it hanging off of like a plate, or I have it on a napkin, or I have it not touching the table because of my experience working at this Chinese restaurant. I mean, it's affected me for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be worried about what they're going on in the back. But the thing is, it's like every restaurant, you don't want to see how your food is made. And I've heard that for the longest time, and it's so true. You don't want to see how your food is made because, I mean, you could eat a place and never get sick. You could eat there every single day, never get sick. But if you look at the back and how clean it is or how they're preparing it, you might not want to eat there again. And this isn't all restaurants. I mean, this is, once again, none of this applies to everything, but I'm sure there's a lot of restaurants that are this way. And that's just, it's hard to push out of your mind at first. Like right now, like right after this, you're gonna be like, I don't want to eat at a restaurant for a very long time. But then later you're gonna be like, yeah, it's not a big deal. And then you'll eat there and you'll be fine. And you'll realize that it's not a big deal. So, I mean, some of this is a big deal, like dropping chicken on the floor and then rinsing it off with tap water and then cooking with it. That's really gross. But I'm sure that doesn't happen all the time. And like I said, I only saw it happen 1 to 2 times. But that's 1 to 2 times too many, right? I mean, that's disgusting. That's not hygienic at all. So, that was my food service fables for the Chinese restaurant. I can't think of anything else to talk about right now at this very moment. I'm just thinking about, oh God, I have to wipe this hard drive. I have to put in my other hard drives. I have to take out my graphics card, put it in my new computer. My mind isn't completely here. So that's all I could think of for today. If I have anything else, or if you guys have any other questions, drop a comment down below. Of course, like the video if you guys liked it. Subscribe for more content. There's a lot more content on the way. I've been live streaming a lot, and now that I get my new computer, I'll finally be able to use my Elgato again, which means I'll have like all the fun follower effects and donation things, and all those pop-ups pop up again. And yeah, so as always, everyone, even though you know all of this about restaurants now, if you didn't already, have a fantastic day. See you guys.